Today we're going to talk to Michael C. Ormsby, the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Washington, who announced recently that he has notified landlords that marijuana stores are illegal, and he warned them on the penalties they may face. Marijuana continues to be prohibited by federal law, and specifically marijuana stores are subject to enforcement action and stringent federal penalties, because under federal law, the possession or distribution of marijuana remains illegal, despite state law. So we say welcome to WFID to Michael C. Ormsby. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Targny, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.
Well, we would just like to know the reason why you issued this press release, because it is not very commonplace. This is the first time actually we have heard about it in this part of the world. Could you just elaborate a bit on that?
Well, I'm not sure that it has not occurred in other communities in the United States, but specifically in the Eastern District of Washington, we saw an increase in the number of stores that were selling allegedly medicinal marijuana. And medicinal marijuana is not illegal under state law, but all marijuana sales and use are illegal under federal law. We felt that some of these locations were not only located too close to schools and other areas where children were present, but that also many of the sales figures were far too high to be for medicinal purposes only. We felt that many of the landlords were confused about the state of the law in the United States and did not understand that under federal law, the sale of marijuana is illegal, and that technically by renting to someone who was knowingly engaged in the sale of an illegal drug, they could be complicit in those actions. And our feeling was that if the landlords knew that, many of them would ask their tenants to leave. And in fact, that's actually what's happened. Probably about a quarter of the landlords who have received the letter in less than 2 weeks have asked their tenants to leave the premises. And our goal was to, by informing the landlords, hope that they would take the affirmative action to ask tenants who are engaged in what we believe to be an illegal activity to leave, and it would eliminate our need to take additional action. We're still prepared to do that if we have to, but it's our hope to minimize that by sharing information with the landlords.
So does this mean that all the landlords who have medical marijuana shops in their buildings have received this letter, or?
Well, I think, Torgny, we continue to find out that there are additional landlords that we were not aware of when this operation began. So there will be additional letters that go to other landlords as we discover them. The landlords we knew about 10 days ago received this letter. Additional landlords will be receiving the letter in the future. And it, again, is our goal to have voluntary compliance with the law by notifying landlords what the law is. I think many of the landlords are confused about the law, and most Americans are law-abiding citizens, and I think once they are made aware of what the law is, are certainly prepared to follow the law, particularly when, in this case, the law is very unforgiving to those who knowingly allow illegal activity to occur, and the landlords are subject to civil and criminal penalties as well as the potential forfeiture of their property. So we think once they're aware of those risks and that it is illegal, many of them are going to take action on their own.
So this in fact means that all these shops will be closed down, or sooner or later?
At this point I don't know, because we gave the landlords some time with which to deal with it. So I think it's too early to tell what percentage of shops will ultimately close down. As I had said earlier, it's between probably 20% and a quarter of them at this point have been asked to leave. I'm not sure that any of them have actually left yet. I think their landlords probably gave them a reasonable bit of time to leave. I don't think that all of the of the shops will close down. I think many of them will, and then at that point we'll take stock of which shops are left. Of course, our biggest goal is to make sure that the community is safe, so we want to eliminate those which are close to schools and other places where children and young people congregate, and we also want to eliminate the very high volume operations. So we will be taking stock of where we are on those types of operations at the end of the notification period.
So how many, roughly, marijuana shops or marijuana dispensaries or whatever they're called, how many would there be in your district then?
Well, you know, when we started out, we thought it was somewhere between 40 and 50, and I'd say that the information we have now would suggest that there's somewhere between 50 and 60.
And the population, how many people are living there roughly?
Oh, the population is probably about 2.5 million.
Now, this is, as far as we know, even if you said that it might have happened in other places, but as far as we know, this is actually the first United States attorney that we heard of that has taken this measure. Have you got any reactions from other law enforcement agencies or from the people who have been affected by this?
Well, I think the reaction from the landlords has been very respectful. They've called and asked very, very good questions, wanting to know, you know, the differences in law, and we've directed them to go consult with their own attorneys. But you know, they've been very respectful and they want to do the right thing. The other local and state law enforcement agencies in this region have been very, very supportive, and I think that would be true statewide. I think a number of districts in this country don't have the same level of problem we do, which in this district is driven in large part by the fact that medical marijuana is legal in the state of Washington under state law, and so it creates a confusing situation for many people where something is legal under state law but not legal under federal law, and so not every state in the United States has legalized marijuana for any purpose under state law, so those states probably wouldn't face this problem at all. But I'd say that the support has been strong. I think there are a number of those who are medicinal marijuana users who are unhappy about our enforcement of the law. And so to say that everyone is uniformly happy with our moves would not be fair. There are those who are not in support of it, but I think the majority of the people, and certainly those who understand the law and who are involved in law enforcement, are supportive of this activity.
So what would be, do we know today what the consequences would be if people refuse to adhere to your requests?
Well, you know, again, the consequences could be that that landlords would lose their property and be subject to civil and criminal penalties. I'm not prepared to head to that point yet. I'm going to give landlords an opportunity to voluntarily comply with the law, and again, many of them already have, and they've only had, to be fair to them, this letter for 10 days, so many of them are probably still sorting out their options, and we've had a number of calls from people saying, look, we need to talk to our attorneys and or solicitors, and we need to make sure that we understand the impact of this and whether in fact it really does apply to us, and after we do that, we'll be back in contact with you. So at this point, I can tell you what might happen to people. I can't tell you that it will, because we may end up having pretty strong compliance, and if we have pretty strong compliance on a voluntary standpoint, that certainly is far more desirable than having to take further legal action against any individual or property owner.
Well, you've listened to Michael C. Ormsby, United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Washington, talking about the fact that marijuana stores violate federal law.